Hello, beloveds. Welcome to the Amanda Collins podcast. It's my honor to help you awaken to joy, be your greatest self, and live a life you love. I'm Amanda Collins. Each week, I'll share tips, practices, and rituals to help you feel the storehouse of joy inside. I'll answer your questions and talk with thought leaders from around the world about health, wealth, love, conscious living, and parenting. Are you ready to live your most fulfilled life? Welcome to Awaken to Healing with Ian. Ian, we are so grateful to have you here today. Ian is the refounder of Elm Tree Therapy and owner of the Elm Tree Clinic, a natural healing clinic for women in Galway. He is originally from Dublin and trained as a scientist, where he gained a bachelor's degree in biotechnology and is currently studying a doctorate in integrative health science. Although he found his career in diagnostics and biotech very rewarding, he felt drawn towards the energy healing practices of Eastern Asia. So in 2001, he decided to leave his life behind and study traditional Chinese medicine, which includes acupuncture and herbal training. He left Dublin and studied in Beijing, and after that came back to live in Galway in the west of Ireland to set up his practice. During his studies, he's developed a growing interest in the life force, the qi, and energetic medicine. He's also trained with a shaman and started to combine his tree plant training with his practice. He started to combine all these modalities together in a complete system of healing. Ian feels honored to have this opportunity to share this knowledge and gifts of this sacred land with people worldwide. Welcome, Ian. We are just so happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Well, Ian, I'd love to start off with, like we do on all our interviews when I'm interviewing these incredible people with all of this wisdom. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey that really brought you into, women's health and healing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I lived in Dublin for the start of my life. I became a scientist and studied biotechnology and chemistry and worked in the pharmaceutical industry initially. And it was pretty rewarding. I was kind of comfortable. I was happy, enjoying my life. But then there was something unfulfilled and I felt kind of stuck. And I found that I needed to do something else. I found that I needed to kind of follow my passion in some kind of strange way. And I came across, Chinese medicine and the healing energy practices of Eastern Asia and China. So in 2001, I left all that life behind and moved to Galway, where I set up a clinic. Well, 2001, 2001, actually, I went to China to study Chinese medicine, and then I went to Galway after that, so it was probably 3 or 4 years later, and set up my clinic in Galway. And I started following my dream. I set up a lovely clinic here in Galway and started making herbs, making teas and supplements for my clients, and I ended up writing a book. I just fell into women's health because I was a sportsman and athlete, and I thought I'd be treating athletes, but women started coming to me, and I started kind of treating women for fertility problems, and with good success. And it's a big taboo subject, especially over in Ireland. Nobody really talks about, the problems women and men have trying to get pregnant. But it's 1 in 5 women who are having problems getting pregnant, and nobody really talks about it. So it's my real passion to get the news out there that, there are ways to help and adjust mentally and emotionally and physically, and you can get pregnant naturally through programs that I offer and other people, and my products that I offer too. And over the last year, I've had around 80% success rate, and I've treated over the last 10 years many thousands of couples, and I'm really kind of glad that I'm here talking to you today, Amanda.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, that's like it's such a service because it's like, the love that the couple have and they want to create life with that. And like that's bringing our next generation to us. So it's like, thank you so much for this work that you do. So what would you say when people come
Yeah.
into women or men come into the clinic? Like, what is the main thing that you're seeing that there's maybe a disconnect? Like do you think they've got like energy blocks up? Is it like physical, emotional? Like what are you seeing like a pattern, a common
What
theme?
am I? Yeah, well, the pattern is, well, a lot of the time you see they're coming to me stressed, emotional, and that plays a lot of havoc on relationships, um, work, everything in life can get just so overwhelming, and then every month they have to be, they have they're timing the time that they have sex, they're timing their cycle, they get so overwhelmed, and that increases your cortisol, stress levels, and it blocks all the sex hormones. So I started really looking at stress and anxiety or emotional well-being as one of the main reasons how acupuncture and herbs and my tree essences kind of help with balancing and regulating those emotions. Yeah,
Mm,
that's
mm,
basically
mm.
what I do. I really studied the cycle because, the cycle is supposedly a moon cycle around 28, 29 days. So I follow the moon and the natural cycles of the earth and
Oh,
try to kind of connect women and men, but more women to that natural cycle because women are so connected to the moon and they don't know, but their body energies are should be in sync with it, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely. And I would love to hear more about that. For me, every single new moon, I get my period, and I always
Oh
know, oh,
yeah.
I'm coming up to the new moon because I just know a couple of days beforehand. Like I don't make any appointments, I don't make any meetings because I know like this is not my productive time. This is my intuitive, healing, creative, and I harness that and enjoy that and give myself permission to have space and have a break. But I would love to hear more about
Yes.
that and like when is our productive time and like enlighten us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, your cycle tells you a lot about your body. If on the new moon, if you're menstruating at that time, if you have clots in your blood, that will tell you that there's a little bit of blood stagnation, or if you have spotting beforehand. These are all signs that your body is a little bit out of sync. If you've brown bleeding or different color bleeding, they're all different signs and um, signs that you need to look at to kind of get your body back in sync. Um, the full moon then is when you're ovulating usually, and it's when you kind of go a little bit, you're more outward in life and you want to be out socializing and meeting people. And the women's so the Western world, everybody thinks we should be level, level emotions all the time. But a woman's cycle is up and down, and you have to embrace that. The around just after your period, your body
Sorry,
starts kind of
I'm laughing
yeah.
Ian, because my husband has created his own calendar to know when my cycles are because
What?
it's like lunar energy, crazy related with the menstrual cycle, and he
That's so true.
yeah, but he can like have so much more compassion for me because as you said, depending where we're at, emotionally and everything, it's like right before the period and for me at the new moon, it's like, it's just these waves. Sometimes like I might be crying on the day or, I might feel a little bit like overwhelmed or just,
Irritable.
yeah, absolutely. So my husband, he's got his own calendar. He's like, oh yeah, that's just what's going on. I'll love her anyway.
Well, I think it's really important that men understand that, and it would be the same with my partner. If when that time is coming, you just have to kind of understand that that's her. She's going through that kind of cycle, and then she'll be fine in a week or so, and just understand it. It's a cycle that we've shut out from normal life, but it's really integral to a good relationship as well.
Absolutely. And it's like, it sounds to me that you just like whether it's man or woman, just look at the body, as this wholeness, body, mind, and soul, and sacred. And, because if we go back, like, of work of the goddesses, and like we're talking hundreds or even thousands years ago, like the period was sacred, and they would do like ritual and blessing with the blood and take it to sacred sites. And
Oh,
like, so I just think that I just spoke to a mother the other day, and she's like, oh, my daughter just got her period. She's 13 and she's ashamed and she's embarrassed. And I was like, why don't you do a little ceremony for her? Do a celebration,
yeah,
like for her rite of passage to like womanhood, and honor her, rather than having the shame. And
it's
probably
beautiful.
that relates back to blockages from fertility. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. Women have these transitions in life. Menstruation or their first period, their giving birth, and then even menopause, and they're sacred transitions in life which we should be honoring. And in our world, we've nearly started shaming and putting women to the side and not being, so embracive of all these amazing transitions. And the other side is men have stopped doing all these kind of transitions. Back in the day, men were sent out into the woods to live for a week on their own, and and then they'd be coming back as a man. And those transitions for men and rites of initiation have been really taken away from us. So
Oh, I
it's
just got
important
like
that we start.
chills when you said that, and like just emotion, like of how important that is, and how sacred, versus like just rushing through our day and going on to the next thing, versus like, oh my
Oh yeah.
goodness, this is like an
and
initiation.
and women's society, even in ancient communities, the ancient women and men in the town were honored and worshipped and listened to. Now we're like throwing them into nursing homes and just shutting them up, where we should be kind of listening to them and learning their wisdom, so we can kind of learn and teach our kids their knowledge, because all that wisdom is dying with them. A lot of the time we're losing all the old wives tales and all those secret remedies that your granny or your granny's granny had. And I think we need to start awakening that spirit again.
That's so beautiful. So,
Yeah.
so what kind of things do you do when, a couple comes in? And I don't know if people are really wise and come in just as they decide, okay, we're getting ready to bring a child into this world, or people come in, it's like, it's the last straw, and we've tried this, we've tried that. What do you find?
Oh, well, they're usually heightened and stressed, as I said before, but they may have gone to the doctor and got their bloods and noticed that they have low progesterone levels, or they may have had recurrent miscarriages and they don't know why they're miscarrying, or they've had, sometimes they've had loads and loads of rounds of IVF, and they have unexplained fertility, or else they're going through IVF, which is really common, and it's really good for just relaxing and calming the mind, and regulating the blood flow into the womb. So yeah, I have all ranges of couples, but the common factor a lot of the time is they're feeling overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. Their body is menstruating, so why aren't they getting pregnant? There's some kind of emotional block, and a lot of the time it's disharmony within the womb. This sacred space just below your belly button is the only place in the world where life can come through, um, in women. And we have to honor that, and women have to honor it, and sometimes just connecting with it, touching it, um, and letting it know that what you're supporting will just open energy paths into the womb to help release any stagnant energy that's there. Um, that's what I think, anyway.
That's so beautiful. It's like acknowledging and almost like reawakening. I mean, for whatever experience, people may have shut down the energy down there, like whatever the reason is, right? And it sounds like you just
Yeah,
support them to reconnect with that. And I remember even when Seth and I were getting ready, I had energetically chatted with Patrick and Neve, like in ethereal level, for years before they came. And then when it was time for them to come, like I would just lie and meditate, and I would bring like orange crystals, you know, like amber, and I'd put 2 pieces of amber down on my ovaries, and I would just meditate and like connect with the energy, and just it's like a body mind soul connection then.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. And orange is that chakra, isn't it? That color chakra. So it's beautiful.
So
And with miscarriage, I'd just say with miscarriage, even when they miscarry, I always kind of get them to acknowledge that baby, you know, that that baby was part of their clan. Although it didn't come into the physical world, that the baby that didn't come into this world, that it is part of their family on a greater scale. So even acknowledging that can kind of release that energy into the world, and then the womb can be clear for another spirit or energy to come in. I
so
think that's really
beautiful.
important.
That's so beautiful. I actually had a miscarriage in between having my son and my daughter, and um, first of all, when I had the miscarriage, you know, you find out how many women all have had them and never actually share. And
Yeah.
then like
Yes.
Seth and I went and we did our own special ceremony, and you know, honoring that spirit, that soul, you know, and I think that's so important, again, not just brushing things off, because it is like,
Exactly.
as much as we want to try push something down or ignore it, it's like, no, this has happened and we need to honor it. And I think on a spiritual path, some people want to bypass the physical experience of it and just be like, oh, you know, it wasn't meant to be, you know. And it's like, okay, that may be true, that soul wasn't supposed to come into a physical body, but on a physical level, you have to process the grief, and you know, whatever would be like. To the other thing Seth and I did were our own ceremony, but then a group of my sisters and all, we went to this beautiful park. They all brought flowers. We danced in a circle, and then I lay in the middle of the circle, and they all put their hands on me and did this healing and
That's
just send
beautiful.
love. And honestly, I got up that day and I just felt renewed and healed, and it was really magical.
I think that you know that's missing in society today. That kind of women's circle and women's support. It's beautiful,
And it's so,
and the men's sport as well. Since we're
yeah,
talking about, but it's all diverse. It's all segregated, and there's no kind of community a lot of the time, where we need to kind of understand and connect with trauma and know that it's part of life, and not sweep it under the carpet. You know.
absolutely. So tell us maybe some other, because obviously I'm so well versed in rituals for women and ceremony for women. Tell us more about, like, for men, like what would you do in this case? Like, because you know, it's all about if the woman has a miscarriage and, oh, is she okay? Like, what about the man? How would you honor him and you know, communicate with him?
Yeah, so a lot, yeah, thanks, because it's usually about the women, but you know, more and more men have um, really, really low sperm motility or mobility, or their sperm morphology is a little bit out. So it's a big issue on pride and you know, their manliness when they have low sperm, or sperm conditions that aren't kind of ideal for getting pregnant. But um, the the good thing, like the good thing is that sperm can renew itself over time. Some people say it's around 90 days, but maybe it's a little bit longer. The, one of the most important things is to keep your mobile phone away from your front pocket. You know that you'll be zapped, or even your laptop. And then reducing plastics. A lot of people are drinking water out of plastics, and plastics contain so many estrogens or phytoestrogens that can play havoc with testosterone levels. And what else? Wearing really tight boxer shorts, really important to kind of keep the testes free, and let the blood flow around there as well.
Yeah.
And then on the emotional level, because a lot of the men are kind of the breadwinners, and they need to be strong and healthy all the time, but there's so much anxiety and so much stress and depression with men, because they get overwhelmed with all this. They need to have, they need to be able to, you know, put their hand up and say, listen, I need time out. I need to not just go down to the pub and have a pint like they used to, but I need to have a hobby. I need to go out, and if it's to go for a run, or to go to the gym, or even just pick up a hobby like art or painting, be creative. It's so important men to look after their body and mind as well.
So beautiful. I know Seth, he, it's like I think we all have these non-negotiables, which I think are so important. And he does jujitsu like pretty much 6 days a week. And then he does archery, and so the jiu-jitsu is like, I feel like the physical, the confidence building, and he's like so present when he's doing this, and it's like the warrior energy. And then his archery is just this deep meditative, it's like his form of meditation, it's just
exactly. And that's what I mean, like, in modern life, that's our, our physical and our meditative processes. You don't actually have to be this monk and do the yoga and do the meditation and then you'll be this balanced person. You can find it in our world through jiu-jitsu or through going for a swim in the sea and then do your archery or do whatever meditative process you find right for you. You can do that rather than, because when I talk to men a lot of the time, they say, I can't just sit there and do the meditation, or I can't do the yoga because it's just too slow for me. You have to find your own little niche that works for you and then go for it.
So true. It's so beautiful. So what do you do for your self-care and your kind of meditation and
So like even my last year was kind of a crazy year. So I was really stressed, and my dad passed away last year. So I kind of had a big overwhelming year last year. No, but it's kind of good. It's part of the story. But I knew I had to kind of do something because my mind was kind of going crazy. I was kind of overwhelmed with work and everything. So, I found I had to get to the gym and get into the sea like 3-4 times a week. And the sea was my meditation. So I've swam competitively in the past for Ireland, and I've done a lot of work in the sea. So I just, when I get into the sea or a pool, I just get into my meditative trance, just plodding away with my arms, and that's my meditation. And then the gym, I just love the community, the guys and girls just coming together and just working out in a big circuit. I think it's just so, like, it doesn't matter if you're the worst or the best. It's just the fun and the crack and getting going and moving. So that's what I pretty do, and that really got me out of my my head and the suffering I was going through. It really kind of helped me release it. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing, and I'm so sorry to hear about your dad.
It's part of life, isn't it?
The cycle of life. Yeah, it is. It's true.
It is. Thank you very much.
So I love that you talk about community, because I mean, that's what it's all about. You talk about these, like the elders and us just putting them in nursing homes and not listening to what they have to say and their wisdom. And it was all about community, even like raising children, it's like, that's why parents are so stressed out nowadays, because they're doing it all alone, instead of like going back hundreds of years ago. They go around the campfire, maybe the men would go up hunting, the women would gather, the baby would get passed around to the grandmother, maybe the aunt, maybe the other little child would play with it, and there was just this sense of community. And that's what, as human beings, spirits having this human experience, we thrive on community and support and that heart connection. So I love that you found like your tribe almost at the gym.
It's so good, and like over the last 2-3 weeks, I haven't been back because we just had a baby 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations!
So it's a crazy couple of weeks, but I'm even kind of getting the urge. I need to do something, when you're kind of stuck in a house and working. You kind of just, I think the men are not men and women, they just need to get out. Sometimes you get stir crazy.
Well, I will share with you that when my daughter was born, she was born at like 2 a.m. in the morning. And my husband usually goes to a 6 a.m. sunrise jiu-jitsu class. And he said to me at 5, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu. I'm like, I just had our baby like a couple hours ago. And you could just tell, like, he was just like, I mean, in love with the baby, wanted to be the baby, but just like, it's like, and I do think that's important in parenting. And I'd love to ask you this, that we always kind of keep our candle lit, fill ourselves up, because that's what makes us absolutely the best parent when we've like filled ourselves up. And I do think if we,
Exactly.
how do we want to teach our kids about love? Be loving with ourselves. How do we want to teach them about compassion? Be compassionate with ourselves, so I think you
Exactly,
got to
yeah.
follow that calling, right?
Exactly. And I think, that's what happens a lot of the time. And I find myself, if you're when you're in the relationship and you got taken over by the kids and you're taken over by financial responsibilities and other life responsibilities, you start losing the connection with yourself. You start losing that time out that you actually need to re-energize yourself and to strengthen yourself. So once you're okay and you're happy, everybody else kind of benefits from it. But if you start losing that that strength within you, everybody else starts faltering as well. So
Absolutely.
it's so important to look after yourself.
Yeah. And I love that you say that.
Really important.
And I love that you say, you jumped in the ocean, because it's like, you hear about the seaweed baths and, and Epsom salt baths. And it's like, well, just jump in the ocean. Like, you get it all there. And then it's so boosting for the immune system, jumping in that cold water, right?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate. I'm really fortunate. I live right on the sea, and I get in most mornings I'd get in most mornings when the tide is elevated, so our tide is in. So I am just so lucky. But I would recommend people having showers, a 10-second cold shower every day if possible. It just energizes you, and it really gets the lymph and the nerves and everything going. And it's so important. I'm a huge advocate of keeping warm for raising the basal body temperature post embryo transfer, post ovulation. But a cold shower in the morning just invigorates you and it gets everything moving.
So true. And you know what I also love is, like, we have these senses, these five senses for a reason, and we're always wanting to be perfect temperature, everything perfectly comfortable. And it's like, do you think that always, having the heating on and this at the perfect temperature stuff weakens our immune system versus like really feeling the cold or really feeling, things that
I think it's a really important. Yeah, you're right. I think we've been mollycoddled so often. Even in Ireland here, I know I'm probably being controversial now, but kids under 6 get free medical care. And if a person gets a sniffle, if a child gets a sniffle, they're taking more trips to the doctor now these days. It's unbelievable. I think kids should be allowed to get a little bit sick within reason, and let their build their immune system, because antibiotics are just ruining their immune system. And I'd hate to think about how they're going to be in years to come, when your body is really it is weak, and then your body's defenses need to kind of be strong.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to have ups and, our life isn't supposed to be this protected way of life all the way. I think it's important that we have growth spells and times of challenges. I think that strengthens you overall.
Yeah. And speaking of, going to the doctor and antibiotics and everything, I have a little, my first aid kit, and it's full of homeopathics, arnica cream if they get bruised. I have camellia, if there's a cut. I have just my whole little, all my essential oils when they've been cold, and, get the diffusers going, and lavender, just use all this. So what would you say are the must-haves for kind of, like a first aid kit at home? Like, what would you tell our listeners?
Wow. Well, you're so right. Like, homeopathy, I find, is absolutely brilliant. Homeopathic remedies are so good, like what you said, arnica, aconite, and those kind of things. And then kind of every year we make up this kind of cough, what would you call it, elixir, and we just throw everything in, from garlic, ginger, peppers, and we put apple cider vinegar, and we just kind of leave it there, and we just drink a teaspoon of it every well, I just throw it into me every couple of days, and it tastes really, really strong, but the kids kind of seem to like it, and it just strengthens their whole system. And they don't get, if they get coughs and colds, they're usually gone within a day or two. And we eat pretty well. we're not vegetarians. We eat meat, and we just eat seasonal veggies. I'm starting to grow my own veggies out the back, but they're slow. But I got a few got a few carrots and stuff.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we have all sorts of, you know what do really well for us, because we're obviously kind of at a similar climate. All our greens, we got lettuce and chard and spinach, and our tomatoes are really slow to come up. Tons and tons of all the herbs. And speaking of garlic, like, we live on garlic. You know, I'm so happy this is a podcast, because I can have my garlic and still, you know, do the interview.
Still not breathe on me.
Absolutely. So we like put garlic in everything, but, and I know apple cider vinegar is amazing. So, like, what's incredible about you, Ian, is you actually create, like, yourself. You actually make concoctions for people, right? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So I've actually formulated teas for couples, or for women more so than, well, women and men, I shouldn't be saying, but they're just herbal teas for balancing the emotions, regulating menstrual cycle, increasing circulation, so if you have cold hands, cold feet, and then more if they've heartburn or digestive issues. So they're really, yeah. So I used to kind of make up herbs myself, but now I just give them these teas because they've got all the nice herbs in them for menstrual issues, and balancing and toning the womb, increasing adrenal support, increasing libido, and that kind of stuff, and reducing stress and anxiety. So yeah, I think they're great.
It's amazing. I love it. And of course, you know, you're the scientist, so that and all the healing work, acupuncture, studying in China, it's like, what a beautiful that you bring all of that wisdom together and create from there. You know what I've been doing?
So yeah, thank you.
But I've been foraging. I've been having so much fun. Like, I've been gathering the nettles and herb robber.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we're juicing them, we're putting them, we're doing foot baths, all sorts of stuff. But I would love to hear what are some of the things you put in for libido? Who doesn't want to increase libido, right? So what you do to
Wow, yeah. So there's a good few. Like nettle is really good. It's a nettle root is really good, but nettle is so good for kind of strengthening libido. What else?
I
Goodness.
didn't know that nettle was for libido. I knew it was like it really helps me if I get allergies and stuff, but that's so cool. So just nettle tea would be good for libido.
Yeah, nettle tea would be really good. Yeah, and peppermint is pretty good as well. Like that can kind of kick things off. And then, you know, sometimes when you're stressed, or if you have anxiety about sex, like for erectile dysfunction, chamomile is really good for kind of calming the mind, and kind of strengthening the energy there as well. So yeah, there's like little herbs just in your garden. Plantain would be another one, just to kind of
I do that
strengthen
too.
the immune system. Yeah, so they're all usually in your garden. Like dandelion, oh my goodness, dandelion is one of the secret herbs that a great multivitamin. Like, it has or multi-mineral anyway. It has everything in those leaves that, you know, you probably wouldn't even need to take a multivitamin if you just drank dandelion leaves.
I know, it's amazing. Like, because I've been doing these foraging classes, like, with herbalists, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
That's the American herbalist. But it's just amazing. It's like pretty much everything around us is edible. I think in Ireland, it's just the foxglove and the hogweed. They're the two absolutely poisonous ones. But the rest, worst case scenario, she said it might like swell up your tongue a bit. But I mean, the nettles, the dock leaves, the dandelions, the herb robert, the plantain, you know, even what I've been doing is the tops of the blackberry leaves and making tea. And I've been dehydrating it, and, you know, and it's so fun. And what I love, Ian, because it sounds like just everything you do with people that come in under your care into your office, it's like body, mind, soul. And it's like, come back to basics, come back to connecting with the moon, connecting with the earth, like come in harmony with her, and come in harmony with yourself, with your emotions, with your body, give yourself space, like clear your mind. And it's so beautiful. Do you also bring in kind of energy healing with what you do?
Oh yes. Sorry, I haven't even talked about that.
Tell us.
So I'm working on a PhD actually at the moment on this. So over the years, I've been trying to kind of look at the lost art of the Celts and the wisdom that the Druids used to have, and I started looking at, and it actually came to me in a dream. You probably mightn't believe. Well, your crew might believe this, but it came to me in a dream to start looking at the ancient Irish trees and the Ogham alphabet. So the Ogham alphabet is an alphabet of 20 letters, and each letter is linked to a tree. So I started researching it and looking at it, and I was guided to make these tree essences. Based on the kind of the calendar of tree magic. So the Druids used to look at these. There was 13 moons in the calendar. So there's 13 trees related to each moon, and I started taking the trees for each moon, and it started kind of balancing my personality and started connecting me to my true self. And I was a little bit skeptical, but I started looking at it a little bit more, and I started using it on some of my patients, and they were feeling really, really good. And it's kind of similar to the Bach flowers or the Australian bush flower essences. They seem to kind of have this strength of balancing our emotions, balancing our personality. And I'm really passionate about it because I want to kind of get it out. Since last year, since my dad passed, and he was a big tree man, he had trees out the back garden that he used to grow in his pots and then go out into the forest and start planting them out again. So he was a big tree man, and I'm a tree man in a sense that I go and collect the flowers and start making these essences.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It just sounds like it's come down through generations. That's beautiful.
And the elm tree, the clinic is my granddad's house. My grandparents' house. They had their house was called the elm tree. So there was a big elm tree growing in their house. So it's kind of been passed down 3 generations, these kind of the trees. So I find them really, really good for balancing the emotions and personality.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, so that's my new kind of passion. It's really good for breaking old belief patterns and rebuilding new ones. So yeah, check it out, ohmtrees.com.
Oak trees are definitely that. I mean, I totally believe in what you're saying, because, it's like sometimes if I'm like, okay, I'm just not feeling in balance here, I just like go to the forest. We have this forest up the road here. It's got like 400-year-old oak trees. And until recently, it was covered in bluebells. There's a river that runs through it that is full of like little water lilies right now. And I go with the kids. Sometimes I go alone. Sometimes Seth and I go there. And I'll just lay down and I'll look up and I just look at the light coming through the leaves, or I'll just give a tree a hug. And it's just within seconds, I just feel calm and peaceful and just so
grounded.
It's like, oh, thank you, trees. Like it's having a love affair with the tree, so.
Well, that's so true. And Japanese have that therapy, don't they, called forest bathing, where you're prescribed to go out into the forest and bathe in the forest because it's known to do that. It's known to bring you down and to ground you, and you feel more grounded and connected with the world. I think it's missing a lot in our society as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one thing that I do every single day, I wake up, and it's been really fun the last couple of weeks. Me and the kids wake up and we just do yoga. If it's warm, we take the mats outside. If it's, cool, we do it inside. And then I just kind of sit and I'm like, okay, what do I need today? You know what I mean? Like, I think that we're also busy rushing and, just in the doing mode. And it's just like, let's stop. Let's bring our hands to our heart. Let's connect with the earth. Let's connect with our heart. Let's connect with source. And what do we need today? It's like, rather than just running on fight or flight or default, it's like, what's needed? Even like in my work, and I don't know if this is the same for you, Ian, but I might start creating something, and then every day I'll just sit with it. I'll be like, Is this really in alignment with who I am and what I want to offer? I think if we
Beautiful.
could, just connect with our higher selves, with our, our heart, and just be like, is this authentic? Is this really, or am I doing it now just because I've started and I think I should? There's too many should, coulds. What's your thoughts
Yes.
on that?
Well, I think you're so right. We can live a life unfulfilled, being stuck in a job that we don't like, being stuck in a relationship we don't like. And I think we all have a story, and we all have a beautiful passion within ourselves that we need to kind of tap into more often. And if we can kind of, follow our dreams, follow our bliss, we'll be but once you start, the doors start opening, the opportunities start opening, and the world becomes a bigger place as soon as you start, you know walking your own path, following your own heart. And I think, the world is at a point of where there's this paradigm shift into releasing these old patterns of oppression, and we need to just go for it.
So beautiful. And,
Yeah,
thank
and being barefoot, you doing your yoga, connecting with the land, it's so important, because I find, with patients coming to me with anxiety, they're all up in their head, and they have these constant thoughts in their mind that are recurring. But if you take off your shoes and try to earth yourself, because if you think about it, we're walking around in plastic soles, we're driving in the car, we pretty much never touch the earth anymore. And if we need to take our shoes off and touch the earth, because that'll bring all that energy down through our bodies, through our bodies into the earth, where Mother Earth will start supporting us again. We've
Mhm.
just
So true, so beautiful. And Ian, like, you're so amazing. All this incredible work that you do, and all these incredible, like, magical potions you've created. And I'll definitely make sure to put your websites, in the show notes. And then just bringing another
yeah.
baby into the world. Like, one question I'd love to ask you is, how can we all serve and support you, because you just do so much?
You can. How can you support me? Wow, that's a
Mm-hmm.
lovely question. Well, you can look at my websites. You can email me, ask me any questions, and you can plant a tree. That's the main thing. I'd love you all to go and get a seed and plant a tree, because
So
I think, the trees don't have a voice. This sounds a bit hypothetical, but even my son, when he sees, big lorries going by with all the trees, his heart goes, they're cutting down all the trees. We need more trees in the world, and they are the lungs to the world, and we're just destroying so much. So if everybody could plant a tree, I would be so grateful.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. And hey, it sounds like with your little boy, there's the fourth generation right there.
I know, it's exciting.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
it's so beautiful.
gorgeous. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm
Oh, it's
so
a pleasure.
grateful. Thank you. And I would just love to say to our listeners, we'd love you to leave comments under the podcast. So, and we'd love for you to share with us, how do you, like, create balance in your life? Like, what modalities do you use? Like, is it the archery, or is it the swimming, or is it the gym? Like, we'd love to hear, we'd love to share. Ian would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
listening today. Thanks, beloveds, for joining us today. Please come over to themandacons.com to continue the conversation and get access to all my podcasts, blogs, and videos. Did you enjoy this podcast? If so, please subscribe to the Amanda Cons podcast on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Feel free to pass this podcast on to your friends. That helps us get incredible guests to share their secrets for an inspired and joyful life. If you want more great resources, come over to amandacons.com and join my mailing list for all my latest